On today's episode of the DeRaud-Messinger Show, the Longhorns land a transfer, Dylan, and a hire. Longhorns fans, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. It's greatly appreciated. So, Dylan, we got to start with the transfer edition on that defensive tackle position, the defensive line overall. We're still waiting for a D-line coach, Dylan, but we don't have to wait for a D-line transfer here. As you got Tiaoalii Savea out of Arizona. Now, Dylan, before I even get into any of the specifics, it is interesting to note that this man has literally followed new linebackers coach Johnny Nansen to now his third stop. He originally committed to UCLA, I believe was there for one season, then transferred to Arizona, and now, of course, has announced his commitment to the Texas Longhorns and has already signed, I believe, Dylan. So, classes have started and, he's getting in on that UT education. In terms of Sevilla overall, how are you feeling about this addition? What sort of needs does this fill?
Well, I think it fills a huge need. I know we talked about when we were discussing transfer portal additions like Isaiah Bond. It was always like, great, they've really filled out the receiving corps. Their offense looks great. But on the defensive side of the ball, what are they doing to add some guys? They got Kendrick Blackshear, right? But they still need to address the defensive line outside of Trey Moore at the defensive end position, Devon. So this is huge because it not only adds size that you lost with Tavondre Sweat and a crazy amount of size, right? He stands at
That's
6'4", 305. Sevilla does. But also, you return some at least NFL level talent, right? At least raw talent. We'll have to see how it kind of translates with Texas if Sevilla is able to continue the production he's been on. But again, this is somebody that can really plug up the middle gaps and really be an anchor for that defensive line.
certainly, he's definitely going to come in, Dylan, and at least have the chance to start on that defensive line. Of course, there are talented guys there already. Alfred Collins is returning. But other than Collins and then some of the edge rushers, Dylan, that defensive tackle position is really a competitive landmine right now. People are, jumping on the bomb, waiting for the chance to get
Yeah.
into the game. And just some stats from last season, Dylan: 22 tackles and 6 tackles for a loss included in there. And production-wise, he's actually quite similar to Collins this past season. However, both guys, Sevilla played, I'd assume, more snaps at Arizona, so the stats might look a little more favorable in comparison to Collins, who was behind Tavondre Sweat, as you were alluding to and talking about earlier, and Byron Murphy. This might be more of a replacement for Trill Carter, who hit the portal
Mm.
and did play a considerable amount of snaps for the Longhorns. Of course, Dylan, as we're talking about those big space eaters, those guys need some breaks. The conditioning, of course, is a little more difficult when you're 300 plus.
Yeah.
But some pros, yeah, they fill a need, and someone that, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be competing for some starting time at a position that is, in not dire straits, but in a little close to the dire strait, Donna. And then it adds position to the group, and as you said,
Mm.
6'4", 305. That will work for me if I'm coaching the defense.
And you can't ever have enough of these guys too, like these big bodies, especially on the defensive line, because like you were saying and getting at with the constantly rotating out guys. I mean, obviously things are transitioning towards you saw the interchangeability on offense, where you want to have speed and playmakers whenever, like always on the field, and with fresh legs. It's the same thing with the defensive line, as you've seen with some of the best defenses in the country. They just got the ability to have 5 stars on deck to rotate in on third down or on the next possession or sequence, right? So it's where it's headed, and you getting more, and Texas getting more of these level of guys. It's huge for them, especially going into, again, to rehash it, but going into the SEC, you need this level of talent and bodies.
Yeah, it's nice to have people on the 2 deep or the 3 deep or the 4 deep, especially when you're on that D line, because as you said, they just shuffle out that position. It's not like maybe a linebacker per se, like Jalen Ford. If you have a Jalen Ford, you're in the game, probably
Yep.
90% of the time. D line's it's a little closer of a even mix. Of course, you want your top guys in there for more often than not, though. Now, big addition there. Another big addition, Dylan. We're gonna shift over to the coaching staff. We had a proposed, I guess, new hire, and then He went back on the job. I'll explain that a little bit. So we have William Gay now being announced as a senior analyst with the Sarkisian staff. He's going to be specifically coaching DBs and helping out, of course, Blake Gideon and Terry Joseph back there. Now, Dylan, William Gay has had quite a run in the NFL, 11-year pro. What do you think about this addition?
Well, I remember watching him as a kid, especially when he was on the Steelers. He just was seemingly everywhere, right? So definitely the talent is there and the experience is there that you'd probably want to have get around the young guys. So we'll see how it translates, but especially as an analyst and again a former player, that's just great to have in the locker room and at practice, and it speaks to kind of where they're trying to go with their defensive philosophy, especially with the emphasis on the cornerbacks.
Certainly. And Dylan, 11-year pro, like we said, he wasn't someone that wouldn't go noticed on those Steelers teams of the past. Great defense, and he was out there quite a bit in his 11-year career. He tallied 577 tackles, 87 passes defensed, and 13 interceptions. And Dylan, I think overall this is just a big hire because it's nice to have someone that has that professional experience in your ear in terms of both the
Yeah.
players and the coaches, just to get a different perspective. He's not, taking over Gideon or Joseph, so it's nothing like that. It's just a nice other helpful hand to have. And I wanted to break down, Dylan, the little coaching carousel we had to get to this moment, just so everyone is aware. So the former Texas DBs coach, Dwayne Aquina, he accepted the Longhorns analyst position that Gay is now currently in. However, after Arizona's head coach went down to Washington, after DeBauer went to Alabama, then a new Arizona head coach in Brent Brennan came in, and he hired Aquina as his defensive coordinator. So Aquina, of course,
Oh,
understandably takes the DC role over an analyst job and
yeah.
stays at Arizona. And because of that, this position for William Gay was available to be had. But yet again, it is nice, although everyone would love to see Aquina, of course, ourselves included, Dylan. It would be silly to say otherwise, and we wish him all the best. But it is nice to have someone on the staff that has extensive NFL experience, and, that never can hurt. But any last words about this addition?
No, again, it shows the emphasis that they're trying to make on the young players in the secondary, right? So it's even more of really just putting the resources in to help them with a guy of specific experience in the secondary.
100%. Now, what do you guys think about the transfer edition and the hiree? Let us know down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, have a great rest of your day.